Hi, so bit of a repair video today. Now this is my it's a Joyetech eVIC VTC Mini. I've had this one I suppose probably a year now, about that. Anyway, it's basically stop charging when you plug in a USB cable. You don't get anything on the battery at all. Various USB cables fit better than others. That one's doesn't seem like it pushes in all the way. I'll try cleaning it out, but to no luck on that one. So I've ordered some new micro USB sockets for it. I've ordered a couple just in case one of them messes up in the process, and hopefully that will fix the problem. So first off, to get the thing apart, I'll just take my tank off there, which is leaking everywhere. It's a Griffin RTA tank, and I've not really found the sort of best way of rebuilding the deck on it and not having it leak now and then. So yeah, if you got any build ideas, I've watched lots of other people's build videos and I can't seem to get one that works for me. So a couple screws in this. I had this apart last night, a couple of nights ago, because I needed to see what type of USB socket it's got on it as far as the mounting goes. So it's a couple of screws out and then that just pulls out. So no, there we go. Alright, so one screw out. The buttons have all come out as well. That's not a problem, we can put them back in afterwards. Spring little plate there. Has that other screw come out? So I don't want to lose the screws. Right, that's those two screws out. So as we can see, this is the main board here. Got our screen on the front. I believe that's OLED. It's sold as OLED. Buttons there and there. And then this is the offending item here. So we need to get this board off here. So again, just a couple screws. On my mobile phone it's got the new USB Type-C, which I'm quite a big fan of at the minute. It seems to be certainly feels more robust than this style does. Now you could get this contact, the negative contacts out, but you'd need to desolder it, so I might leave that in if I can. So very small pin pitch on there. So I'm not sure if I want to flow any fresh solder on this or not. I think I will do for the end tabs that are holding it in. I'm not sure if it's going to be best to do this looking through the camera. Yeah, it's taking a bit to melt that. A bit on this side. Right, I think solder wick is probably going to be the best job for this. Not very easy this at all. I've got a bit of it off. Maybe that hot air might work slightly better. It's knowing how much heat you can apply to the board. without damaging it. Right. I think if I can get that clear, then I can get most of these pads heated up at the same time, which would be ideal. I think what I might try is a bit of hot air, and then sort of using a pair of tweezers or something to pull down on the socket from the underside. Alright, well, I've tried with hot air, and yeah, apart from just starting to melt all the cabling there, it's not really working much. So I think I might have to try and do some of this off camera, but I'll shoot what I can and hopefully be able to get that socket out. Okay, so I've managed to get the old socket out. So I've kind of butchered it really, trying to get it out. It burns it a bit with a hot air gun. In the end I just applied the soldering iron and just pushed quite a lot on the centre pins and got most of the solder off the two bits that hold it in. Cleaned up the holes as best I can. A couple of them look alright, but they've still got solder through the middle. Trying to get solder out of you know, holes in the board is quite difficult. So I've got the new part here, so what I'm going to do is try sort of heating up the top area, maybe a hot air gun, and pushing it up from the underside, and see if that will push it in. I think it's going to be interesting if it actually works after all of this. I don't really want to have to buy a whole new unit because of it, but yeah, it's certainly not an easy job trying to replace something. So here's the new part, and that's what we've got to try and get back in there again. So orientation, 2 pins is that way round, so we want that like that. So this is a bit that's going to be very tricky, I think. I think if I could clear those holes out, that would be so much easier. I might have to try and see if there is a way of doing it. So that seems to be... yeah, I think I'm going to have to try and get the rest of the solder out of those holes. So I might try with the iron from this side and see if that's any better. Okay, so I've managed to clean up the holes a bit better, and it looks like I've managed to get the new one in. That pin there looks like it's in. Not sure about that one. So difficult because they will bend if you're really not careful, so I'm not too sure about that end pin. I can't see it very well on the camera. Okay, so sorry I didn't manage to get that on camera, but I've got the new ones soldered back in. I don't think there are any solder bridges. So what I'll do, before I put it all back together again, just connect up a cable just to see if anything happens on the screen, because that should give us an indication of whether or not we've been successful. Aha! That's lit up, so that looks to me, no atomizer found yet. Adjustment seems to be working, a little bit sluggish. So I think now, just to put it all back together again, pop a battery in and see if it charges. Okay, so now we just need to pop the 2 smaller screws back in. Hopefully this has now fixed it for the sort of lifetime that I'll have the device now before I upgrade to something else. That's very fiddly job, and yeah, I think this board is, well, it's definitely a multi-layer board. Being how thick it is, it wouldn't surprise me if it is somewhere in the region of 3 or 4 layers thick, and that certainly doesn't help with the heat issue, because you're trying to melt solder, and of course the inner layers of the board are sucking the heat away very rapidly. So that's that part there. So now we need to get the buttons back in here. So these two up and down ones, and then our fire button there, and that should slide in there. What we have to remember is the contact for the top. So for that you've got a little spring and this plastic cap. So basically on here, the so we got to try and do it without dropping all the buttons as well. This sits down in here, so I'll take that out for a minute. So that contact sits in there, spring sits on top, and then this little cap fits in over the top and lines up. That little notch lines up there where the cable is. So then it's a case of holding that part in whilst then getting it back into the case, without of course all the buttons falling out again. So push that in. Oh. Yes. First time I did it, it was actually seemed quite easy. Okay, back on top there. And try again. Okay, that seems to have gone in. Okay, so buttons are there. USB socket is lined up. Does sit a bit proud in comparison to the other one, so I think they must have used a lower profile one originally, but I'm really not too bothered about that. The main thing is that it does the job. So before we put the screws in, I'll just verify again that that's lighting up, and it is. So a couple of screws. It's a reasonably nice one to get apart this. I've had ones before that can be kind of half destructive trying to get the thing apart, so at least if you do need to repair it, it's not impossible. I haven't seen any repair videos for the USB socket, but I have seen some for the 510 connection on the top, but I've not had any issues with that yet. I do sometimes get issues with atomizer, but I think that's just because I'm building my coil resistance is a bit low. So pop that screw in there. This one doesn't seem to tighten up, it does seem to just go round in circles. I'm not quite sure why. Go back a bit, see if I get it to take. Okay, so I've got that to tighten up now, which is good. So, get a battery. Pop it in. Okay, so that's fine. So we'll get our tank. Pop that on top and make sure that it's still operating. Yep. So the question now is, if I plug this in, will it charge? It's on, but nothing's happening on the battery bar. That does normally do something. So we'll try a different battery and see if that makes any difference. Okay, so I popped a different battery in there. The only battery that actually works for using it as the eVIC is this one. This is a Sony one, and it's got a rating 2100 milliamp hours, but it can deliver 30 amps continuous current, which is what you need. These cheapo batteries, it won't fire on those at all, but it allows us to test if the charging's working. So yes, fixed. The only other thing to test at some point, I suppose I'll do, is just the data connection. So if I can plug into PC to update the firmware. But by the looks of it, that's working fine for charging. So I think we can call that, hopefully, completely fixed. That should last me for a while now. So if you've got one of these and you're having issues with it not charging, or you've got a sloppy USB port, now you know how to fix it, but I don't think I'd recommend it. If you're very good at soldering, but especially very small stuff, and you got the right setup, then yes. But yeah, that was incredibly fiddly trying to get it out, and certainly trying to get it back in again. But seems to have been successful. A lot of time it's just taking your time and you know, trying not to get too frustrated with it, and being sort of, you know, careful and just doing things step by step. So I hope you found that video useful. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and please subscribe if you haven't already done so. I'll see you soon for the next video. Cheers.